My name is Maureen Mbithi Ochang, and I'm currently working for Old Mutual Group as the head of project management office for East Africa, where we support the business in delivery of projects. I am a certified project manager, certified change management practitioner, and I have a certification also in organization transformation. In 2017, I got involved in one of the biggest projects in our organization following the acquisition of UAP and Faulu by Old Mutual. It involved coming up with combined website and self-service portal, just to make sure that we present ourselves to our customers as a unified front, integrated financial services center. The merger of Old Mutual resulted in us having to come up with one combined website for our customers. It resulted in us having to change some of our processes just to bring everything together, change our products, change our brand for our customers as well. At the time, I only had 2 years of experience in project management, so I was very green, and the size of the project was quite massive. Luckily, we had the opportunity to do an assessment, see how big this is it going to be disruptive, is there high risk, and what can we do to make sure that we address the risk. We were fortunate enough to get a chance to onboard a consultant to help us with the change. That was Seda Consulting. We didn't have the experience for managing such a big change, so we went into the market just to find out who could help us, who could we partner with to help us with this change. We were lucky enough to get services from Seda Consulting, who were able to train our business, train our leaders, train our sponsors, train the businesses on how to address such a change, how to make sure that we are effective once we roll out the change. Following the assessment and with working with our consultants, we were able to come up with proper communication plans, come up with proper tactics to address our sponsors and our stakeholders, training plans, coaching plans, and most importantly, to make sure that at the end we're able to realize all the benefits that we set out to do. In any change, I think the biggest challenge is always having some resistance from the people. We're very comfortable in our current status, so that comfort, of course, creates some fear on what does the future look like. Our first challenge was definitely addressing the change resistance from our people, making sure that they're able to buy into the idea and why we were trying to change. Then the other challenge that we were experiencing that was quite big for us was something we call change saturation, where there's a lot of change going on. Like I mentioned, this is a time when we just done our merger with the organization and the acquisitions. So there's so much change in the business. The project in itself was also going to bring a lot of change from processes and cultural changes and bringing people together. Another challenge also is obviously the cultural values of an organization. Because it was during a merger, these were two companies that had different cultures. So we had to address bringing the culture together first before we can actually address this challenge. And lastly, I'd say the lack of experience from our side, where we've never actually addressed such a big change for organization, so we didn't know how to go about it. For this particular change, I was fortunate enough to have a very active sponsor, someone who was very present, someone who was really keen on making sure that we were successful on this. Because of that drive and constant reiteration of the fact that this is really, really key for us as an organization, everyone had to come on board. Then secondly, middle-level management had also bought into the idea. When you have employees or staff, they tend to believe what they hear from their supervisor, their direct report. So that also was quite meaningful for us as we were delivering the initiative. And then lastly, I think having Seda on board was actually a really, really critical factor for why we were able to succeed. They have the expertise, they've done this before, so they were able to show us any gaps or areas or pitfalls or risks, and we were able to address them proactively before they impacted the project. One of the biggest lessons for me at the time was when you're delivering an initiative. In the past, measuring success for me just meant delivery of the process or the system or the initiative that you're delivering. But from this particular change, it emphasized the need to bring 3 aspects of change: making sure that you have the right leadership, making sure that the project framework is addressed, and then also making sure that you carry your people with you. Success of the project actually is at the end when users adopt whatever you were trying to deliver. So that for me was one of the biggest lessons. Then another big lesson for me was the role of sponsors in an initiative, or the role of leaders. That came out very strongly, and it changed how I look at delivery of any initiative, making sure I'm always carrying my project owner, my project manager with me, making sure I address their needs. And lastly, making sure that you're capturing the requirements of your users and making sure that you involve them in everything from conceptualization to testing to assessing the quality, and lastly, ticking off if the project has met all their requirements. Another lesson I like to share is we all have 3 ways of leading or driving any change. There are people who will resort to facts, and then there are people who would that definitely just means using your mind when you're addressing a change. And the people will obviously go into making sure that they're diplomatic and people actually buying into the idea. And then you'll always have that one person who's just focused on the outcome and the money. It's important for you to know how to weigh in and create a balance when you're dealing with change. Resistance comes when you're doing change to people. So if you want to minimize the change resistance, make sure that everyone has bought into the idea. It makes your work so much easier. When we began the project, before we actually did our assessment to identify how big this change was, I was struggling with some stakeholders who were not keen on the why or what value would this project have on them. What change management did for me was give me the tips and tools and knowledge and of course know-how on how to address the stakeholders. How do I engage them? How do I make sure that they don't feel like we're leaving them out? Change management, the ProSci the ProSci ADCA model is very keen on making sure that if you want to change an organization, you first address the individual barriers. So change one person at a time, and then overall, you will end up changing the entire organization. So for me, that was one of the key changes that this training brought to me. I'm a big advocate for ProSci ADCA methodology. I believe it makes a very big difference in any project. And I push all my team members to make sure that that's something that they take on, and I'd advise anyone who's embarking on a change to go through the training. It makes a very big difference in how you deliver initiatives.